You can spot the exact moment frustration creeps across her face, that brief flash in her eyes revealing just how exhausted she's become with this relentless cycle of identical questions. Caitlin Clark shifts uncomfortably in her seat, her voice carrying a subtle edge, her entire demeanor signaling she's reached her limit with the media's obsessive fixation on one narrow topic. For weeks now, every interview, every podium appearance, every single media interaction has circled back to the same tired inquiry about her off-ball responsibilities, about sharing playmaking duties, about adapting to a new guard system. She's maintained her trademark professionalism throughout, answering with patience and diplomacy. But the cracks are finally starting to show. Not explosive outbursts or angry tirades. Just the quiet telltale signs of a superstar player who's one more redundant question away from unleashing what she truly thinks. This simmering tension brewing inside Indiana's franchise cornerstone represents a far more dangerous situation than any public blow-up could ever create. Because contained frustration doesn't disappear after one news cycle. It festers and builds throughout an entire season.
Guys' two favorite questions: what I wear to practice and me playing off-ball basketball. I don't want to ask. Go ahead.
Welcome back to WNBA Pro. Look closely at the screen. Look at her eyes. Caitlin Clark is getting tired of answering the exact same question. You can see it, you can hear it in her voice. You can feel it in the way she physically shifts in her chair every single time a reporter brings up the off-the-ball conversation. For 3 weeks now, every single press conference, every single media session, every single podium appearance has included some regurgitated version of the same boring question. Caitlin, how do you feel about playing off the ball? What do you think about sharing ball handling duties? Are you comfortable with a new guard rotation? Over and over and over again. And Clark, who has been nothing but fiercely professional, patient, and diplomatic for her entire career, is finally starting to show cracks. Not big cracks, not a massive meltdown, not an angry rant, just a flicker of pure irritation in her eyes. A slight sarcastic change in her tone, a shorter answer than usual. It is the kind of subtle body language shift that tells you a generational player is exactly one more off-the-ball question away from saying what she really thinks. And this right here on WNBA Pro is where we tell you why the off-the-ball conversation just became the most dangerous ticking time bomb in the Indiana Fever organization. Let me explain why Caitlin Clark's mild irritation matters infinitely more than a full-blown media controversy would. Because a player who explodes at the media creates a one-day headline. But a player who simmers, a player who holds it in, that creates a season-long undercurrent of tension. And right now, Caitlin Clark is simmering. She is answering the questions. She is saying the right things. If my teammate is standing there not being guarded, why wouldn't I just pass them the ball? But the sheer enthusiasm is gone. The electric energy she brings to questions about basketball, competition, and actual winning is noticeably different from the drained energy she brings to questions about her off-the-ball role. She lights up when she talks about the game. She dims when she talks about the narrative. And here is the massive problem. The narrative is not going away, because head coach Stephanie White keeps accidentally feeding it.
Steph, I know there's been conversations this year about Caitlin relinquishing some of the ball handling duties. How did that idea kind of come about, and how did she take it? Was she on board from the beginning, or did you have to kind of convince her a bit?
This is not some revolutionary idea. I mean, I think when you watch professional sport,
that's why you see AB with the little smile.
Here's where things get complicated. Because Kelsey Mitchell shares point duties, while Coach White continues defending this strategic approach as though it's basketball common sense. White reiterated her position just days ago, dismissing criticism by explaining this isn't some groundbreaking revolutionary concept, but rather the ultimate complement to Clark's dominance. Her reasoning sounds solid on the surface. Defenses hound Clark relentlessly, picking her up full court, trapping aggressively, denying every touch, so moving her away from primary ball handling lets her operate with actual breathing room and exploit defenses differently. Tactically speaking, this logic holds up perfectly as fundamental winning basketball strategy. But from a public relations standpoint, from a messaging perspective, it's the exact same talking point that's been frustrating fans and evidently irritating the star player for 3 straight weeks. What makes this truly revealing is how Clark herself described her identity during Media Day, stating plainly that she believes she's the absolute best transition player in the entire league. That specific word choice matters enormously, because transition basketball represents everything opposite to off-ball half-court offensive sets. Transition means pushing tempo, racing down court like lightning, making instant lethal decisions with the ball firmly in your control at maximum speed. That's where Caitlin Clark sees herself as unmatched, where she wants to dominate, and she communicated that directly to everyone listening. When your franchise centerpiece declares she's the league's best transition player, she's transparently revealing her competitive desires. She wants the basketball. She wants to control pace. She wants to engineer the offense. She doesn't want to wait on the perimeter while secondary guards slowly advance the ball and eventually locate her in structured half-court actions. Her visible irritation with these repetitive questions directly reflects the psychological disconnect between her natural instincts on the court and what the coaching staff continuously emphasizes in public forums. Now, to be completely fair, Stephanie White's tactical reasoning carries substantial basketball legitimacy.
Preseason games, but like I want to get it, I want to go and I want to play. But dead balls, things like that, like it's difficult bringing the ball up 94 feet. But if my teammate is standing there not being guarded, why wouldn't I just pass them the ball? That's just an unselfish play to make. And then, when we get into things in the half court, I think like being a great screener, like that's an area that I can really, really, really improve in. I haven't always been a good screener. So just trying to do that a little bit better. And, obviously the last game, it was fun to play with AB. And
Consider the defensive reality Clark faces constantly. Opponents target her more intensely than any player in women's professional basketball, applying full-court harassment, denying her every catch, trapping her viciously on screens, physically grabbing and holding her relentlessly. Deploying her off-ball in specific half-court situations can absolutely dismantle that defensive pressure and create devastating mismatches. Clark herself articulated the brilliance of this approach when discussing inverted actions with Aaliyah Boston, explaining how her setting screens for bigger players throws defenses into complete chaos about whether to switch or trap, generating unguardable offensive opportunities. The distinction everyone's missing is the difference between strategically using off-ball sets as a situational weapon versus constructing your entire organizational messaging around repositioning Caitlin Clark away from the ball. The coaching staff has leaned heavily toward the latter approach, with every press availability, every interview, every public statement referencing Clark's off-ball responsibilities in some capacity. The sheer constant repetition of this particular message is precisely what's generating her visible frustration. She fully comprehends the tactical concept, understands the strategic value, but what's bothering her is how this has morphed into the dominant preseason storyline, rather than remaining a minor tactical detail. This mounting psychological tension isn't confined to press conferences either. It's spilling into unexpected places, including the team's social media presence.
Oh, all right. Now I want to get back really quickly to her comment about, I knew this was going to be the first question about, what I'm wearing to practice. Let's take a look at that.
Leg sleeve come about.
I knew that would be the first question.
More irritation on her part. Good-natured, but certainly some irritation.
I wanted to ask about golf, but she went to the lake slide.
People are wondering.
Just a little compression on the leg. I mean, I don't know.
And when she says a little compression on the leg, I don't know, because basically it's what Stephanie said the other day, yesterday. And it's like, it's the style. You got AB having it on one leg, you have CC having it on the other leg. Yeah, it does add compression, but she's like, what am I supposed to say? Like,
Check out what happened on Instagram recently, when the Fever posted promotional photos featuring Aaliyah Boston. In one image, Clark's hand appeared bizarrely distorted, obviously generated or manipulated through artificial intelligence editing. Clark herself jumped into the comments section on the official team post with just 3 words, "New hand alert." She publicly called out her own organization's social media team for producing careless AI-generated content that made her look absurd. Fans ate it up because it showcased Clark's authentic humor and unfiltered personality that everyone loves. But beneath the surface comedy lies a much more significant psychological revelation about what's happening inside her head. Caitlin Clark is noticing absolutely everything the organization does around her, from sloppy AI-generated social content, to the coaching staff's daily repetition of off-ball talking points, to reporters asking about compression leg sleeves instead of basketball strategy, to GM surveys ranking her 7th among passers. She's absorbing every detail, processing every message, and the mild irritation surfacing in press conferences represents the cumulative effect of 3 weeks spent noticing things that conflict with her competitive identity. What the Indiana Fever organization must urgently recognize is that Caitlin Clark represents the single most valuable asset in women's professional sports history, generating unprecedented revenue, driving television viewership to record levels, and selling tickets faster than anyone else on the planet. Right now, this irreplaceable asset is sitting before cameras, displaying unmistakable, undeniable frustration with how her role is being publicly discussed and framed. That's a warning signal that smart organizations address immediately before small problems become catastrophic. The solution is remarkably straightforward. Stop making off-ball strategy your primary talking point. Stephanie White called it not some revolutionary idea, so stop treating it like headline news at every opportunity. Stop defining Clark's role by what she's moving away from, instead of what she's moving toward. Start emphasizing the lethal transition game Clark herself identified as her greatest strength, the breakneck pace White claims she wants to establish, the massive shooting improvements from her off-season training with Brandon Payne, her 70% shooting performance across recent preseason games, the championship expectations everyone should embrace. Give media members different storylines to pursue, and they'll naturally stop fixating on off-ball questions. This narrative exists because coaching staff allowed it oxygen, and they can extinguish it immediately by redirecting conversations toward more productive topics. Clark literally begged everyone after the Dallas preseason game to move past this, saying nobody should get hung up on it, pleading that she didn't want this becoming a story. 3 days later, White reignited the exact discussion Clark asked everyone to abandon by going on record defending the off-ball concept again. That's a genuine communication breakdown between franchise player and head coach. Not catastrophic yet, but absolutely real and worth addressing. This tension manifests in Clark's body language, her tone, her energy level during media sessions, and smart organizations pay attention to warning signs before they explode into something much louder. Opening night arrives in exactly 72 hours when Caitlin Clark faces Paige Bueckers. Indiana battles Dallas on ABC's national broadcast stage, representing the biggest spotlight in basketball. The absolute smartest move Indiana can make between now and Friday is eliminating all off-ball discussion from their messaging and pivoting entirely to winning basketball games. That's the only conversation Caitlin Clark genuinely wants to have, the only topic that lights up her competitive fire. And when your franchise cornerstone wants to talk about winning championships, you let her steer that conversation. This is WNBA Pro, bringing you analysis that reads situations better than anyone covering this league. Smash that subscribe button immediately if you want real insights that cut through surface-level narratives. Drop your hottest take in the comments right now about whether Clark's frustration is justified or whether she should embrace this off-ball role without complaint. Hit the notification bell because opening night is 3 days away, and the storyline is about to shift from talk to action on the court. See you there.